Okay, so we're down to the final speaker for this session. We have Emily Webberson from Texas Tech University. She's a PhD student, and it's a beautiful thing to look at. So from whiskers to whiffs, let's unpack this sensational side of cat innovation. And I apologize.
Thank you for that introduction. So today I'm going to be talking about my research project that just recently got published. So a recent census of the AVMA indicates that there are about 24 million pet cats in the US. One of the ways that we can support their welfare is to encourage natural behaviors such as play. Research shows that reducing that encouraging play can help reduce stress and aggression in cats and also increase the positive affective states and that human-animal bond. However, although this is a critical behavior for cats to perform for their welfare, there's been very little research to look at their preferences. So cat's play can be divided into several different categories, including social, locomotor, predatory, and object. For the purposes of this research, I will be focusing on object play, where you can see a cat poking, batting, scooping, leaping, grasping, stalking, and biting at inanimate objects. These objects can range from a leaf outside to maybe a piece of trash inside, however, most cat owners opt to give their cats toys. There are several different factors that can influence whether or not a cat will interact with these toys, including the size of the toy, the texture, and what I'll be focusing on is the odor and the movement of that toy. So, like I said, one of the things that could impact whether or not a cat plays with a toy is odor. Commercially available odors have been used to promote positive behaviors and also exploration. Research has shown that cats tend to have a preference for plant attractants like catnip and silvervine, which are just plants that are dried and often in powder form. Cats will display a repertoire of behaviors in response to these powders. You can see them sniffing, licking, rolling, and rubbing into these powders. And similarly, commercially available facial feline pheromones have been shown to emit conspecific chemical signals that can help reduce stress. Although these odors are often implemented into the cat household, there has been no research comparing cats' preferences for them or how they might help promote their play. Other than odor, movement could also be another method to help promote cats' play. One of the common behaviors seen in object play is chase, which shows that cats find moving objects to be highly motivating. One of Several studies have been looking into the different characteristics of these objects, and they found that they like ones that are similar to prey, where they are small and they have erratic movements. Although moving objects have been used to promote cats' play, and olfaction has been used to promote positive behaviors in cats, no research until this one has explored the possible synergistic effects of odor and movement. So this brings me to the objectives of my study, where now that we have these three odors, catnip, silvervine, and pheromones, we want to see what do cats actually prefer. And then once we've determined this, we want to move on to objective 2, where we can take that preferred odor and apply it to the toys and see if this preferred odor can create a scented toy that would increase play with either stationary or moving toys. So to do this, we recruited pet cats in the community. All of the cats participated in all 3 of these preference tests, always starting with odor preference first, and then moving into the stationary and moving toys. All of the preference tests took approximately 5 minutes, including a 5-minute acclimation at the beginning, and all of this was done in the owner's home. So sessions took approximately 20 minutes overall. So starting with the odor preference test, these are the exact brands that I used. All of the odors were presented to the cats in Tide socks with a cotton ball inside. The feline pheromone was sprayed onto that cotton ball, and then for the catnip and silvervine, we measured out 0.5 grams and placed that into the socks. So here's what that setup looked like. I measured this in all of the cats' homes, and I designated the spots using painter's tape. There were 4 locations for the different odors, and they were all randomly assigned. At the bottom middle, you can see that's where the cat always started. This was video recorded and also live scored so that we could get that real-time preference, which I then used in the later 2 toy preference tests. So our results, we recruited 31 pet cats, 22 were spayed females and 9 were neutered males, and their average age was 3. So here you can see the results from that odor preference test, where on the y-axis is the interaction time in seconds, and then the x-axis is the odors. You can see that there was a statistically significant difference in the amount of time that they spent with these different odors. Seeing that catnip was the most, and then followed closely by silvervine. This was also backed up by the percentage of cats that indicated preference. Preference was defined as the stimuli which received the longest duration of interaction. So 61% of the cats preferred catnip and 39% preferred silvervine. So as a reminder, these were our objectives. We discovered that cats tend to prefer catnip and silvervine, catnip a little bit more. And now that we know this, we can move into objective number 2, using these 2 odors and impregnating the toys with these odors. We're now going to present them with an unscented toy and a toy scented with that preferred scent. So these are the toys that I used. They were commercially available rattle mouse toys. For the stationary toys, they were just the mice themselves placed on the floor. And then for the moving toys, it was that toy attached to the end of a flexible moving wand with a little bit of fishing line. And in order to keep the powder off of the toy, but to be able to impregnate it with that scent still, we first placed the toy into a mesh bag and then placed that mesh bag into a Mylar bag, which contained the powder. So the 2 toy tests after the odor preference test, we again only gave them 2 toy options. So we only used the 2 centermost areas of the circle, a semicircle. And we also only video recorded these. We did not need the real-time preference for these. So here are the results for the toys. You can again see on that y-axis the interaction time, and then on the x-axis is the toy type, either moving or stationary, with red being scented and blue being unscented. Cats interacted statistically more with the moving toys in general, either scented or unscented, and the scented stationary toys more than the unscented stationary toys. Again, this lined up with our percentage of cats that indicated preference, where overall cats preferred the moving toys. And then in stationary, they preferred that scented toy. So in conclusion, although pheromones possibly can reduce stress in cats, plant odorants are more successful at promoting play. And although moving toys are overall more preferred by cats, it's possible that moving toys aren't readily available or practical in situations. So it's really good to know that you can take catnip or silvervine and apply it to a stationary toy to also encourage almost the same amount of play. So for future directions, I think it would be really valuable to look at their preferences over time. Unfortunately, we were only able to look at it in this one snapshot. We could also look at possible habituation to these toys. And similarly, looking at previous experience with the odors would help highlight any potential novelty effects. Also, looking at the difference between passive and active interaction. For this study, we only looked at active, but it's possible that cats could show preference in more of a passive way for something like pheromones. And then preference in different populations. Potentially, cats in a shelter would have more high stress, and therefore they would find something to reduce their stress, like pheromones, more rewarding. And then lastly, overall, looking at these moving toys or scented stationary toys to redirect problem behaviors in the home. So maybe you can get your cats to stop playing with your trash. Thank you for listening. If you are interested in reading more about it, I put the QR code to the article here.